I just bought the worst car in the world.
This is the worst reviewed car of all time, and auto journalists have been crapping on it for decades.
Some cars are ugly, some are unreliable, and some are so disastrously bad they're practically case studies in corporate failure. From exploding Pintos to luxury cars that rattled like lawnmowers, these machines didn't just flop, they became legends for all the wrong reasons. Today we're diving into the top 10 worst cars in US history, and trust me, one of them was so bad it nearly destroyed an entire brand. Number 10, Pontiac Aztec. The Pontiac Aztec was supposed to be the bold crossover that saved Pontiac. Instead, it became the poster child for bad design. On paper, GM thought they were geniuses. The Aztec was marketed as an all-in-one adventure vehicle. Removable seats for cargo, a built-in cooler between the seats.
Right here, there's a cooler.
And even an optional tent package so you could camp out of the back. It was supposed to scream freedom and innovation. The problem? The thing was hideous, with a sharp slanted nose, awkward proportions, and plastic body cladding that looked like armor plating. It was widely mocked as one of the ugliest cars ever sold. Critics ripped it apart and customers stayed away in droves. In its debut year, GM predicted they'd sell 75,000 units. They barely moved 27,000. By the end of its run in 2005, sales had sunk to just 5,000 a year, an embarrassment for a brand already on life support. Ironically, the Aztec did eventually gain cult status thanks to Breaking Bad, where Walter White drove one as a symbol of his depressing suburban dad life. But let's be real, no amount of TV fame could erase the fact that this was the car that helped push Pontiac closer to the graveyard. Number 9, Chevrolet Vega. The Chevrolet Vega started out with high hopes. It was GM's answer to the growing wave of fuel-efficient imports like the Toyota Corolla and Datsun 510. Sleek design, low price, and American-made pride were supposed to make it a smash hit. At first it worked. The Vega sold like crazy in its first couple of years. But then reality hit. Owners quickly discovered the Vega's aluminum engine had a nasty habit of overheating, seizing, and burning oil faster than you could top it up. To make things worse, the body panels rusted if you so much as parked it in the rain. Some cars were literally corroding in showrooms before buyers drove them off the lot, and by 1975, the Vega's reputation had collapsed. What started as Motor Trend's Car of the Year in 1971 became the butt of every mechanic's joke just a few years later. One critic famously said the Vega was a car designed to last 100,000 miles, but only if you towed it the whole way. The Vega's failures didn't just hurt Chevy, they dented GM's credibility at a time when Japanese automakers were proving they could build small cars that actually lasted. For many, the Vega wasn't just a bad car, it was proof that Detroit had lost its way. Number 8, Ford Pinto. The Ford Pinto might look like a harmless little compact, but under the surface it carried one of the deadliest reputations in US car history. Built to compete with the flood of small, affordable imports in the 1970s, the Pinto was cheap, light, and simple. Unfortunately, it was also a rolling fire hazard. The problem was the fuel tank. Ford's engineers had placed it right behind the rear bumper with barely any protection. In even a minor rear-end collision, the tank could rupture, spilling fuel and turning the car into a fireball. Internal memos later revealed Ford actually calculated that paying off lawsuits from burn victims would cost less than redesigning the tank. That cold-blooded math became one of the most notorious scandals in corporate America. Despite the controversy, Ford sold over 3 million Pintos during its run, proving that people cared more about low prices than safety. But the damage to Ford's reputation was massive. The Pinto became a case study in business ethics and is still used in law schools today as the textbook example of profits over people. Number 7, Cadillac Cimarron. The Cadillac Cimarron is proof that even luxury brands can make colossal mistakes. In the early 1980s, Cadillac panicked. Younger buyers were turning to sporty European sedans like BMWs and Audis, and GM wanted in on that action. Their answer? Take a Chevrolet Cavalier, change the badges, add some leather, and sell it for nearly double the price. The problem? Everyone saw right through it. The Cimarron's 88 horsepower 4-cylinder engine was embarrassingly weak compared to rivals. Reviewers blasted it for being slow, noisy, and completely unworthy of the Cadillac name. Car and Driver famously wrote that GM had forgotten what luxury means, while Time magazine called the Cimarron a cynical exercise in marketing. Buyers weren't fooled either. GM had hoped for 75,000 annual sales, but the Cimarron never cracked 25,000 in a single year. Over its 6-year run, fewer than 132,000 units were sold. Pitiful numbers for a brand that was once America's gold standard of luxury. Number 6, Dodge Ram Charger. The Dodge Ramcharger was Chrysler's attempt to take on the Chevy Blazer and Ford Bronco in the booming SUV market. On paper, it had potential, a big V8, rugged styling, and plenty of off-road promise. But in practice, it was a beast that handled like a drunk elephant. The Ramcharger was notorious for its rollover risk, thanks to a high center of gravity and sloppy suspension. Safety testers flagged it as unstable, and drivers quickly realized that sharp turns could send the whole truck tipping. Add in Chrysler's spotty build quality of the era, rust-prone panels, electrical gremlins, and cheap interiors, and you had a truck that looked tough but fell apart fast. Sales never came close to its rivals, and the Ramcharger quietly disappeared by the early 1990s. While the Bronco and Blazer have since enjoyed nostalgic revivals, nobody's clamoring for a Ramcharger comeback. For many, it's remembered less as a classic SUV and more as a cautionary tale of how not to build one. Number 5. Oldsmobile Diesel. In the late 1970s, America was in the middle of a fuel crisis, and GM thought they had the perfect solution, a fuel-efficient diesel engine that could drop right into their sedans. On paper, it made sense. In reality, it turned into one of the biggest engine disasters in history. Instead of designing a true diesel from the ground up, GM took a gasoline V8, modified it, and called it good. The result was catastrophic. The engines were underpowered, belched smoke, and had a nasty habit of self-destructing long before hitting 100,000 miles. To make matters worse, mechanics who weren't trained on diesel technology often botched repairs, making problems even worse. By the mid-80s, the Oldsmobile Diesel's reputation was so bad that it poisoned the entire American diesel market for decades. Buyers who got burned by GM's shortcuts swore off diesel cars entirely, and the stigma lingered long after the engines disappeared. While Europe embraced diesels, in the US the word became almost a punchline, and GM had only themselves to blame. Number 4. Ford Edsel. The Ford Edsel wasn't just a bad car, it was a full-blown marketing disaster. Launched in 1958, Ford hyped the Edsel as the future of American luxury. They poured nearly $250 million into its development and marketing, an astronomical sum at the time. The car was supposed to bridge the gap between Ford and Mercury, giving middle-class buyers a step up. The reality, the Edsel was awkwardly styled, overpriced, and badly timed. Its infamous toilet seat grille became the butt of endless jokes, and the design just didn't connect with buyers. Worse, it hit the market right as the US slid into a recession, when buyers weren't exactly lining up for flashy new cars. Sales fell far below expectations. Ford hoped to sell 200,000 Edsels in its first year. They barely cleared 60,000. By 1960, the brand was dead, and Ford had lost the equivalent of $2 billion in today's money. The Edsel became one of the most famous corporate flops in history, a symbol of how hype and hubris can sink even the biggest automakers. Number 3. Lincoln Blackwood. The Lincoln Blackwood was Detroit's first big swing at the luxury pickup market, and it was a swing and a miss. Lincoln tried to combine the utility of a truck with the comfort of a luxury sedan, but what they built was one of the strangest vehicles of the early 2000s. At first glance, it looked like a regular Ford F-150 with a Lincoln grille stuck on the front, but the real head scratcher was the bed. Instead of a functional truck bed, Lincoln gave it a carpet-lined, power-operated cargo box with a stainless steel floor. Great for golf clubs, not so great if you actually needed to haul anything. Buyers weren't impressed. The Blackwood launched with a price tag of nearly $52,000, and Lincoln sold fewer than 3,500 units before pulling the plug after just one model year. Critics slammed it as impractical, overpriced, and confused about what it was supposed to be. Number 2. Yugo GV. The Yugo GV was pitched as the cheapest new car in America. At just $3,990 brand new, it sounded like a bargain too good to pass up, and at first Americans lined up for it. But they quickly discovered that you got exactly what you paid for.
I just bought the worst car in the world.
If not less. Built in Yugoslavia, the Yugo cut corners on everything. The engines were weak, the interiors felt like they were made of recycled plastic, and reliability was a nightmare. These cars broke down so often that mechanics joked you needed 2 Yugos, one to drive while the other was in the shop. Road and Track once called the Yugo a disposable car, and owners reported problems with everything from electrical systems to door handles literally breaking off in their hands. Even safety was questionable. Crash tests showed the Yugo crumpled like a soda can. By the early 90s, sales tanked, and the Yugo became a punchline in late-night comedy routines. Today, it's remembered less as a car and more as a cultural joke. The cheapest way to learn why buying cheap isn't always a bargain. Number 1. AMC AMC Pacer. The AMC Pacer was supposed to be revolutionary. AMC pitched it as the car of the future, with a wide, bubble-like design and extra glass that made it look like a rolling fishbowl. The goal was to stand out from the crowd, and boy did it ever. Unfortunately, not in a good way. The Pacer's unusual proportions earned it instant ridicule. The doors were huge, the rear seats were cramped, and the styling was so odd that people didn't know whether to laugh or cringe. To make things worse, AMC originally planned to power it with a rotary engine, but when that deal fell through, they stuck in a thirsty inline-6 that killed its fuel economy. Critics mocked it, buyers ignored it, and by the early 80s, the Pacer was gone. Instead of being remembered as futuristic, it became a cult oddball, forever immortalized as the goofy car from Wayne's World.